Good evening, sir. I'm glad to see you safe.
I am not safe. I should never have come back here. My life is in danger. I know it.
You're much safer here than in that contaminated area.
Bullets kill people quicker than diseases and epidemics, Dr. Reed.
What can you tell me about this district?
The East End Docks only knows one rule. Dog eat dog, and blood calls for blood. The gang will have their revenge on me one way or another.
What can you tell me about the locals?
Most people would say that Sean Hampton and Tom Watts are good men who try to sort things out. But for me, the real boss around there was my best friend, Jack Gillingham.
Jack Gillingham, you say?
Everyone round there knew Jack. He was a rock. A mountain even. He feared nothing.
Your friend Jack has something to do with you fleeing to the contaminated area where I found you. I want to know more.
Jack is dead. That's all you need to know. Dead because of me. So much violence. So much sorrow. All of that because I refuse to be insulted again.
The docks are being consumed by violence. Any war you may have started was already brewing underneath the surface, just waiting for a spark to ignite it.
Perhaps you're right. The district was doomed before I was born. But I cannot stop myself thinking that Jack died for me.
Why do you say that?
After I killed that gang member, the Wet Boot Boy suspected Jack. And being loyal and all, he did not refute the accusation.
The death of your friend has affected you deeply, hasn't it?
Jack Gillingham was the real deal. He believed we could change the world if we were united and focused enough. And he brought out the best in each of us.
You're right. He died to save you. That alone gives me an idea of the kind of man he was.
He was the bravest. And no one dares to say openly that he got killed by those bastards.
Your friend's plan was audacious, if not reckless. No one stands up by themselves to a gang like the Wet Boot Boys.
How dare you say that? You never met him.
You are not going to spend the rest of your life hiding, Rodney. What are you planning to do?
Honestly, I have no idea. How am I supposed to live while so many have suffered because of me?
Only you can answer that question. But one thing is certain. Since you owe Jack your life, I think it's fair to live it in a way that would make him proud.
That's the kind of thing Jack could have said, Dr. Reed. Thank you for that. I believe you're a good guy too.
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter?
I heard he kept on helping people, but I tried to stay away from his shelter. I don't feel safe there.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
Not really. I've spent so many days hiding to escape retaliation from the Wet Boot Boys. Now that there's so much chaos, they might forget about me.
Goodbye, Mr. Grader. Take care. Good evening, young man.
There's no need to call me that, Dr. Reed.
Have you heard anything recently concerning Sean Hampton's shelter?
He keeps investing time helping the poor and sick. Good for him. And for them.
Are you feeling worried about the sanitary situation in London?
This city is falling apart. The disease kills so many people. No one cares about anything or anyone anymore but themselves.
Goodbye. Good evening, Miss Gillingham. May I come in?
Of course, of course. So, Dr. Tippets, what brings you back here? We haven't talked in quite some time.
Miss Gillingham, why did you give Martin Nightingale the watch I returned to you?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I suppose I thought he needed a watch more than I did. I have no reason to really keep track of time anymore.
Why don't you need to keep track of time?
I've spent my entire life marching to the tick of clocks and the ringing of bells. At my age, it's nice to finally be rid of those burdens. On my time.
But it was your son's watch, Miss Gillingham.
It was, wasn't it? I'm relieved you found it. Besides, it's more useful to him anyway.
Have you heard anything recently concerning Sean Hampton's shelter?
I've never heard that name before, I'm afraid.
Are you worried about the sanitation crisis in London?
Too much noise, too much shouting. It keeps me up. Is it really gunfire I'm hearing?
Goodbye, Miss Gillingham.
Are you certain you're not lost, sir? You seem quite a stranger to these parts.
Glad to see you again, Mr. Reed.
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter? Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
There are rumours of infected people turned mad by the fever and roaming the streets, attacking everyone they see. Is it true?
As long as you stay away from the streets, you should be all right.
I hope you're right, Dr. Reed. We feel kind of left alone around here.
Goodbye, Miss Paxton.
You again? What do you want?
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter?
The place is all right, I suppose. The sad saint is still the same. Except for that awful skin disease he recently got.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
Chaos is rising, Dr. Reed. This city is about to crumble.
You almost sound happy.
This world needs to die, Dr. Reed. And from the ashes, a new one will emerge, with more equity and freedom.
Well, I'll leave you for now. Goodbye, Miss Paxton.
What have we here? Lost your horse, Governor? Or are you just out of your mind?
Welcome back to my humble shelter, Dr. Reed. Are you here to subdue me again?
No, Sean. I just came by to see how you are.
I feel all right. Why'd you ask?
Are you still feeding on corpses?
No. It's almost as though the blood you forced me to drink has provided me eternal satisfaction.
How is the sanitary situation in this part of town?
I think it's acceptable. Fewer cases of sickness recently. I thank the Lord for his mercy.
How are things in your shelter? Between the mortals and the immortals, I mean.
Even if we're all children of God, I've always maintained a strict frontier between the two communities.
What do you fear?
A few years ago, a Scal decided to pay a nocturnal visit to my sleeping customers. He got caught licking their necks in the dark. Since then, I have added a lock to the door.
What if food became scarce? Wouldn't the immortals in your flock be tempted to feed on the living? Wouldn't you?
The Scals can feed on the dead, Doctor. And until Judgment Day, mortals will continue dying.
How did you meet old Bridget?
When younger, I used to patrol the streets at night, searching for lost souls. This is how I met her. It took me 2 months just to get her name. Now we support each other.
Had you already visited their hideout in the sewers?
Just once, and very briefly. Most of them are very discreet, and they see me as an outsider, even if I protect them.
You really are a saint, Sean.
Oh, no, sir, I'm not. But I know evil, and I believe goodwill and tenacity can make this world a better place.
Have you seen Harriet Jones since taking her to Old Bridget?
No. She is with the sewer Scals now. I don't go downstairs.
What happened at the Pembroke?
I guess we recognized each other. As Scals, I mean. She had but one thought. To punish. To get revenge upon everything and everyone. I realized I had to bring her here quickly.
But why did she fake her own death? There was so much blood in her room. She attacked patients, too.
I just lost her for a minute that night. When I found her, she had caused mayhem across the hospital. I slapped some sense into her, and we fled before getting caught.
What happened then?
We ran here through narrow streets and backyards. She kept saying that someone was talking to her in the dark, offering to avenge her. But I saw nobody.
Would you let me listen to your chest, Sean?
No, Dr. Reed. You already forced me to drink your blood, and I thank you for that, for I feel better now. But it was quite an unpleasant experience.
It would help me greatly if you would allow me to give you a physical examination.
I said no. I'm no subject of medical examination, and I intend only to obey and to kneel before God.
Farewell, Sean. Take good care of your flock, and of yourself.
So much no...
Good evening, Mr. Throgmorton.
Dr. Reed, can I be of any assistance? Have you noticed anything suspicious lately?
Have you heard any rumors regarding Sean Hampton's shelter?
The sad saint will always be a target for vampires, but I'm keeping an eye out.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
It seems the Guard of Priwen has declared war on vampires. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, though.
Really? I thought you'd be thrilled by this news.
The Guard can be reckless. They rush into a fight without thinking. The citizens of London should not be the collateral victims.
Goodbye, and good hunting, Mr. Throgmorton.
I can't protect the whole city. It's hard enough to cover the docks by myself.
Good evening, sir. I'm amazed you made it back to the docks alone. Good for you.
Well, I could say the same about you, young man. More to the point, who the hell are you?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed.
And I am Archer Woodbead. Please excuse my assertiveness. I often forget I'm just an old prune.
What can you tell me about this part of town?
People used to feel safe around here. They had the gangs protecting them. Now all they do is bicker and plot against one another.
Missing the good old days, are you not?
Trust me, son. The longer you live, the less meaning your existence will have. You need to remember the days you still had beliefs.
And what about the gangs?
Back in my day, people trusted the wet boot boys. We looked out for the docks and its families. Nowadays, they're just a bunch of greedy fuckers.
You were a gang member?
I was their leader for a time, believe it or not. Now these bastards act like I'm nothing. Not one of them. They owe me some damn respect.
If you were such a respected figure, surely you have many interesting stories about this part of town.
You bet I do, but make no mistake. I'm no rat, sir. Some secrets are best left buried.
Do you still know anyone? From the old days, I mean.
Most of them are dead. I still give Miss Gillingham salutations. She doesn't remember me. She did once like me. Boy, she was a beauty back then.
Any remarkable new faces around here?
Nobody. Well, there's that boy Rufus the Curse. I like him, despite the reputation he's made since his parents died. Poor little bastard.
Who would you trust around here?
The owner of the Turquoise Turtle's a decent fella. Tom's his name. Sean Hampton's all right too. Don't particularly share his religious views. He's quite devout, if you catch my meaning.
I'm sure a district as colourful as the docks must have plenty of stories about strange visitors and creepy characters.
So, you want me to talk about the sewer dog, don't you?
If you don't mind.
The sewer dog is a bitch. Appropriately named. An old woman dressed in rags. She has an elegance, though. Despite her ugliness. I saw her once. Scared the life out of me.
Have you always been so bitter?
It's not bitterness, it's poorly masked disgust. When everything turns to shit, we all have to eat a spoon or two.
As a practitioner, I believe science will provide a new standard of welfare. It's just a matter of time.
I'd like to believe you, Doctor. But recently all science has been good for is mustard gas and machine guns.
But what about social progress? What about women getting the right to vote? Things can change for the better.
I've never voted, not once. And my wife, God rest her soul, she was too busy taking care of the kids to vote.
Tell me about the Wet Boot Boys, Archer. I want to know more.
We were there for the families and each other. It was us against the world. We were vicious, tough, even cruel. But we were united.
You sound like you were some kind of radical union member.
Yes, nowadays the communists and gangs squabble over pointless territory. Sounds stupid when you say it out loud.
Tell me everything you know about the Guard of Priwen.
Andrew never told me what they do. I do know they're vigilantes with military training. Access to some impressive firepower.
And what is your personal opinion about the Guard, then?
This Guard of Priwen is just another gang preying on the young and naive. Preying on people like my boy. I know how it works. I invented it.
Why did your son really join the Guard of Priwen?
If I believed in a higher power, I'd see this as punishment for my own sins. I deserve it for all the young men I enlisted back in the day.
You don't believe in God, though, do you, Mr. Woodbead? So why did he join?
Now I think about it, Andrew joined the Guard, not to defy me, but to follow in my footsteps, to make me proud.
So your son has left you nothing to explain his actions? No letter or message?
Not even a note. I'm a proud man, Dr. Reed. But I would kneel and pray if I thought it would give me my Andrew back.
Do you have any recent news on Sean Hampton's shelter?
The man is still here. He's trying to help others despite the terrible things he endured. I'm impressed.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
I never thought I'd live to see the last days of London. Just another thing I was wrong about, I suppose.
Goodbye, sir.
Perhaps I should shut the
Welcome back, Doctor. What can I do for you?
Have you got any recent news on Sean Hampton's shelter?
It's still there, just like the turquoise turtle. That means there is still hope, somehow.
Are you concerned about the sanitary situation?
It may surprise you, but I'm not. I've heard about the men-at-arms and the fights between gangs at night, but that's nothing new.
I wish I shared your optimism.
It's not optimism. Gangs have been fighting in this part of town since before I was born. This war will stop when enough blood has been spilled.
Goodbye, Mr. Watts.
Times like these, a good drink's just as likely to cause a problem as to solve one.
You still working at this hour? That's what I call dedication.
Have you heard anything about Sean Hampton's shelter?
I was told he caught a deadly disease but survived against all odds. Maybe he really is touched by grace.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation?
Of course I am. Everywhere's deserted, houses, streets all empty. People buying guns. We hear them go off every night. It's bloody frightening.
Goodbye, Miss Cavendish.
The sewer dogs.
Good evening, Miss Cox.
Hello again, Dr. Reed. What do you want?
Have you got any news about Sean Hampton's shelter?
As long as he keeps on helping the poor, I'll keep my boys at bay, even if he pisses them off.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
The bodies are piling up, but I'm not afraid. I'm still alive, and I intend to stay that way.
Goodbye, Miss Cox.
You again. What do you want?
Have you heard anything about Sean Hampton's shelter?
That bastard's become something of a holy man these days. And someone should remind him who really rules the docks.
Are you worried about the conditions in London?
I've heard rumours about some sort of militia patrolling, killing the sick. The wet boot boys are overrun.
Goodbye, Mr. Digby.
Foolish girl and her pretty principles.
Good evening, Mr. Delaney.
What? Ah, you're that doctor.
Do you have any recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter?
I still sleep over there from time to time. The sad saint still manages the place, even if he's a little bit more reclusive since he returned.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
More contagion, more despair, more guns and more dead. More alcohol.
Goodbye, Mr. Delaney.
With the epidemic, no one dares go outside.
A wave of bitter death to drown and hurt.
Good evening, Mr. Fishburne.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything recently about Sean Hampton's shelter?
I don't give a rat's arse about Sean Hampton, his shelter, or any of the losers who sleep there.
Aren't you worried about the conditions here in London?
I've heard armed men have started patrolling the city, even killing the sick to stop the epidemic. Starting to like this city again.
Goodbye, Mr. Fishburne. Evening, Rufus.
Evening, Mr. Reed.
Heard anything about Sean Hampton's shelter lately?
Well, I heard that Mr. Hampton has been very sick, but now he's better.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation?
I never really felt safe in this town anyway. Now's the first time that everyone seems to feel the same way as me.
Is anything worrying you right now?
Gunshots? I hear them every night. Who's firing? Who are they shooting at? That's what's scary.
So long, Rufus. Be careful. Take care. Good evening, Mrs. Fishburne. May I come in, please?
Of course. Dr. Reed. I can't remember the last time I had a good sleep. What can I do for you, Dr. Reed?
Do you have any news about Sean Hampton's shelter?
I just heard the sad saint keeps on helping the sick and poor. God bless his soul.
Aren't you worried about the conditions around here?
Hate everywhere. The city will not sink because of this flu. It's the violence that will finish us all.
Goodbye, Miss Fishburne. Take care of yourself.
I'm not sure the epidemic is what worries people most these days.